Shalom. This video is a rebuttal to Kristof's article about Israel in the New York Times on March 17th. Kristof makes the classic errors undermining Israeli security in the guise of pretending to be a friend of Israel. He says that there, number one, is internal debate within Israel discussing flaws in Israel, and therefore the United States should discuss the same flaws, whereas people toe the line and just support Israeli security. Second of all, he suggests that the best security for Israel is having a peace agreement with the Palestinians, and he says we even know what it looks like, an agreement reached before. And number three, he says the best thing that President Bush could have done to help Israeli security was to hold Omert back from the war this summer. He's completely wrong on all three levels, and he makes the classic errors which undermine Israeli security. Number one, just because Israel is a democracy, and it's one of the great and vibrant democracies of the world, doesn't mean that countries outside Israel should criticize Israeli policies. The reason is that Israeli democracy is powerful and vibrant, and they, through their justice system and their legislative process, come to conclusions to remedy any injustice in the society. Of course, there will always be some injustice. But compared to the rest of the world, Israel is a shining beacon of democracy. Most of the rest of the world is a cesspool of corruption and human rights violations. The world is mostly completely sick, and you think about the absurdity of the situation where the Human Rights Commission has 8 resolutions condemning human rights, and they're all about Israel, when country after country after country has slavery and murder and rape and pillage. And you open up the paper every day and you have dozens and dozens of countries with huge violations of human rights. And so the flaw number one of his position is that when you, outside the country, condemn the policies of an inside country, which is a democracy and a vibrant democracy and solving its own problems, you're comparing apples to oranges, and you completely undermine Israeli security in a world which already wants to undermine Israel. So Kristof's pretending to be a friend of Israel with good advice is actually a classic position of undermining Israel, which always comes from the left. Number two, he says the best thing Israel could do is have a peace with treaty. Well, that is so obvious, it's ridiculous. The flaw in his article is that he's putting the onus on Israel. I just heard Prime Minister Omert a couple of days ago say how clear Israel wants a two-state solution. Let Hamas say they want a two-state solution. Let Hamas, all they have to do is renounce violence, accept Israelis' right to exist, and agree to past agreements. Arafat's party, Fatah, and Hamas now have a unified government, and they can't even agree on the right of Israel to exist, to renounce violence. Hamas yesterday said all forms of aggression and all forms of reaction against that Israel is permissible. So the onus is on the wrong side. Kristof makes the completely absurd position of putting the onus on Israel. There could be peace tomorrow if Hamas would simply abide by agreements. There's not one word about that in this paper. And third, he makes the ridiculous position that the best thing that the President of the United States could have done in the summer was hold Israel back. The biggest mistake Israel made, and you talk to all the Israeli security people and the United States security people, was just like the mistake we made in Iraq. Israel didn't go in fast enough with ground troops, they didn't go in deep enough with ground troops, and they didn't have enough to deal with Hezbollah's thousands and thousands of missiles, shooting them from hospitals and schools, hiding behind the skirts of their people. Kristof's article is simply absurd, and it has to be soundly rejected.